Well, Matt, here we sit at the end of August, a very busy month full of fixtures and transfers and a lot of excitement. How do you reflect on the first month of the season?
Um, it's going to take a little while to sink in, I think. It's been work in progress throughout the off-season and pre-season, and obviously up until today or last night, I suppose, and late on last night as well. But yeah, work in progress. Look, listen, when I came into the club, December of last year, you straight into the helter-skelter of a league schedule and trying to get the identity of the team going. Obviously, the way the back end of the season drifted away from us and away from myself was deeply disappointing and really hurt. And it was during that time we made a few decisions in terms of the club internally, in terms of certain roles, but also with a real ideology in our minds of what we wanted to achieve, not just in terms of results, but what the team looked like on the pitch. And then you get through to the end of the season, and obviously the big news is, I suppose, who leaves, who stays, contract negotiations, everything in relation to that. Obviously the loans go straight back to their club, so that was straightforward. And then there's almost a deep breath whilst presentations, conversations, ideas are put forward, and our targets are identified, and then the board and George work as hard as they possibly can to obtain those targets. We could sit here and speak for hours about the number of players who've passed us by or gone elsewhere, which we totally understand and we accept. But the general feeling has been that we've brought in good people, we've brought in players of a certain age and profile who are going to benefit the club for the long term as much as the short term, and who want to really succeed and need to succeed at this football club. The hunger aspect probably trumps all for myself and my staff and the players we've now got. And then you come back in pre-season and the new faces are there, but in a lesser number, and then they come in dribs and drabs throughout pre-season and even towards last night. And then in amongst the league schedule starting up again, it's about winning games of football and not being distracted elsewhere. I have to say, George and the board have been incredible in terms of their support, but also their understanding of certain situations. Sometimes you need to be patient, sometimes you need to be strong, but generally we feel in a good position right now with the work we've done, but there's still a little bit of unknown and a little bit of what's next for this group of players.
We knew coming into this season there would be a high number of players coming in with the players that had left and the loans going back to their parent clubs. We thought about the quality of those players and what they bring in terms of their abilities and their characteristics. Did you ever expect or think we'd have 16 new faces coming in?
No, look, I was always working between the 12 to 14 number. I thought I was realistic and could be expected on the back of the departures. So yeah, we're probably a couple over in terms of my personal and private expectations, but we all feel they're needed. And within those 16s, the Dan Ellisons of the world and the Mackay Anthony's, they're not fringe players by any means, but they might go out and get loan time to give them the experience they need to be ready for us for the first team. So it's just been incredible to see like the consistency of who we've brought in, and they all look very similar. We've only really signed, I think, Jamie Lindsay and Taylor Moore, who you'd say are established professionals at this level and have had experience of this level, whereas everyone else has got that something inside them where you don't quite know what you're going to get every minute of every game, but they're going to give it absolutely everything because they've got to prove themselves. And whilst they're trying to prove themselves, we've got to develop them as players and turn them into established first-team players for us. But then there's also another understanding that if we achieve that, then their bandwidth and their potential, their limitations might be above this level in this club, and then they become assets for this football club. All goes into the package of, exciting time to be involved in Bristol Rovers. But like I said earlier, testament to the work that's gone on behind the scenes. And I've been in a lucky position this window and this time round because George has offsetted so much of that work. I've kind of done the easy job of just presenting to the player. The other conversations behind the scenes, so to speak, of taking care of themselves.
In terms of the transfer window as a whole, Matt, not just here at Bristol Rovers, but for the entire league, I think it's fair to say it's been pretty crazy. I think we've seen the record not only smashed, but completely obliterated by certain clubs and the calibre of clubs that we've seen in this league. What have you made of the transfer window as a whole?
The league's improved. It has. There's a better calibre player on the pitch. We've seen that in our first 4 games. The league has gone to another level. People always used to talk about the jump from League One to the Championship being a big gulf and a big jump I actually feel now, probably from League Two to League One, only maybe for one season or 2 seasons. Just the strength and depth of this league is absolutely incredible. So, you know, you naturally had the boost of the relegated teams and the promoted teams, but then within it, there's some incredible clubs, having 8 ex-Premier League clubs, and a lot of teams with aspirations to go back to the Championship. So we have to understand where we are, and almost do our work in isolation for what we can achieve, and not get carried away with the league. And everyone will see in the headlines in the last 24 hours in terms of what Birmingham have done and the amount of rock players other teams have brought in. We can't be not distracted by that, but overrode by that or affected by that in any way. Just stay true to the plan we put in place at the end of last season, and keep working towards a bigger picture of building this club alongside the stadium, the training ground, and this good group of young players and the academy to make it a brighter future for all.
You said on the pitch, we've had 4 league games, 7 points, 3 clean sheets. It's been a positive start to the season.
Yeah, managers are greedy, you always want more. There's been times in those games, maybe Rodo looked a little bit at Rotherham but showed a different side to ourselves. I actually felt we started the game well today, like we did at Stockport, but we got the goal today and it settled everyone down, and it always affects the opposition. First goal's huge at this level. But yeah, I think we've probably shown where we are, and what we're going to become. But like I've said time and time again, it's what this team can become on a longer term basis. I've always said football managers never get time, but I do feel the fans are starting to see a certain identity within the team and on the pitch. And I've used that word hunger. Intent's going to trump everything for me into the players this season. And the moment the fans see that intent just draining a little bit, then they'll be right to moan at myself. I've got to make sure that doesn't happen, and then keep trying to add layers of quality on top.
What's been the biggest positive for you so far in these first 4 weeks in terms of what you've seen from the lads?
I mean, we're talking about 4 weeks and 4 league games, but probably the 6 weeks previous, we had a positive pre-season. Testament to Tom Short, his brothers, the new physio staff, Andrew Proctor. The majority of the group stayed fit and stayed healthy, and we worked them hard and we got them fit. And the way the ones who were here last season allowed the new ones to be integrated. We had a good trip away. There's been a good social aspect to the group. Scott Sinclair being club captains has played a big part in that, and there's a good feel at the training ground at the moment. My job is to maintain that for as long as we possibly can, and keep all players hungry even when they're not playing or they get pulled off or they don't get in the 18-man squad. That's a challenge in itself. But there's a good feel at the training ground, a certainly different feel to what we felt we had last season. And then putting pressure on them in training, and trying to develop their understanding that we try and practice and replicate as many moments in the game as we possibly can on the training pitch, and putting a big emphasis on that. The team needs coaching, needs constant attention. Dave Horseman's coming in and done a fantastic job alongside Wayne Carlisle and the trusted group I've already got. So just the general atmosphere makes it, or I feel it makes it a good place to work. As a player or a member of staff, and you've spent some time at the training ground yourself, so we're trying to be open and welcoming in relation to that, but then you need that boosted by performances and results, and we got some good ones in pre-season which just lifted the mood and the expectation, and we tried to carry that on into the season. You know, a 90th minute winner in our first game, we couldn't have scripted that any better, and then to back it up with another good home performance today gives the majority of our fans something to come back and to watch.
Something I've heard you speak about in quite a few of your interviews already this season is about competition for places, different partnerships, different dynamics on the team in the 6 games we played. How important is that for you in the group to have that, your players being that hungry to fight each other for those roles?
Massive, but I think you've probably seen with the team sheets in the 2 cup games we've had, the depth of the squad. We've not looked totally different in those games. I know they're different opposition, different competitions, but there's been some good players and some good teams on show in those games. So, you know, competition is everything. But you can only put 11 players on the team sheet to start a game. But like I said previously, I think I'm making more subs this season than I've ever done at any stage in my career, and that's trusting the bench a little bit more. There's some good players not missing out in the squad. We have been affected by a couple of injuries and some disjointed pre-seasons in terms of game time and match sharpness. But we're moving in the right direction, and it's going to be really interesting and absolutely key to see how the group grows together. Naturally, when you grow, you might leave some behind. Some of it might grow at a different rate to others. You know, I think Brian's a prime example, isn't he? He hadn't played a football league game until his debut against Northampton, and what a debut it was. So there's still so much to learn from Brian, but still so much we just don't know about him. we like a profile, and that's a lot of time in terms of recruitment. What you go towards a profile of a player, and then you try and learn about the character. Have they got that to back it up? And then what layers of the game can you add as a coaching group, and then the player develop over time. But he's already shown that he can be a Football League player, and already if he continues in the mould that he is, he'll get attention elsewhere because he can run like the wind, and he's 6'3" and probably 6'5" with his dodgy haircut, and he heads the ball. But that's an attraction in that, and that's got him in the team to start with, and there's a simplicity in that. And if he adds more to his game, then let's see where it takes us. But he's not the only one. There's probably a number of players who fit that mould. And I just still need now a bit of seniority to help them along the way. As much as I'm talking about ourselves as a coaching group, the best coaches for these young players are the pros alongside them, the Scott Sinclairs, the Jamie Wilson, the Jamie Lindsays, Taylor Moore, Chris Martin, people like that who are just going to help them act in the right way on a daily basis.
And so we look ahead to September for tough league games once again. Every league game is tough, as you've said a few times in interviews. Looking forward to it?
Yes, yeah. I don't know if we wanted the game next week to be off. We were borderline. We've got 2 going away, and we might have had a third, but Ruel probably wasn't fit enough. Or there'd been a bit previous there with the staff. I think Barnsley were the same, so there's been a bit of communication back and forth after whether that game would be on. It's obviously on now, and on the back of today, we're looking forward to going there and putting in a performance. But yeah, we go to Barnsley and Wigan. A playoff team from last year and an ex-Premier League team, just monstrous clubs. But we're not daunted by that task. We're looking forward to it, and we're buoyed by our previous performances. We know we have to improve in certain areas. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And I suppose, like we spoke about, this group can now just settle a little bit, settle into their own company without the worry or the expectation of players coming in or players going out. The change room is what it is now until January. It'll come around pretty quickly, but yeah, they can just settle into life together. But whilst they're doing that, drive each other on to better things.